I was about 12 years old when my life took an interesting turn. I was out with a good friend of mine, and we were exploring. You know how you are when you're 12. You get on a bike, you ride somewhere, and you find stuff. We found an abandoned swimming pool, and in the back of the abandoned swimming pool was a changing booth. And inside that changing booth were more Playboy magazines than I ever dreamed of. And at 12, man, that's like a big deal. We just kind of gorged ourselves for hours there, and then rode home on our bikes. Didn't tell anybody, obviously. In fact, I remember if I would have told God, I would have said, "Hey, God, don't let me forget where that place is, and don't let it burn down." You know, that's interesting because that actually was a day that began something that would carry me for the next 15 years of my life. I'd actually called it an addiction to pornography. That was before internet, before a lot of the other forms of pornography, but between magazines and movies, sort of a world that just kind of impacted my life. Now that will take me through puberty into my early dating years. It'll guide me on into meeting Lynn, into marriage. I will actually be a youth pastor, interestingly enough, struggling deeply with this right up until right before the birth of my oldest son. Now, what's interesting is what got me there. There was a belief I had, and the belief that I had was that from early childhood, as I mentioned to you before, my mom would take care of me until my dad came home, and then she'd still take really care of me. And I had this idea that women take care of men. So when I struggled with pornography, it was sort of like I had this person that I could use that would take care of me. They weren't saying no. They would, in pornography, give me whatever that I wanted. But it was always about me. It was always about me, my pleasure, and all that kind of stuff. And it was during that particular time period of those 15 years of my life that so many things were distorted in my understanding. I had realized the damage I was doing. I was hurting, obviously, Lynn. I was hurting relationships I had before Lynn. I was hurting people I was caring for. It was a bad belief. And that was just kind of corrupting every part of my life. Just before the birth of my oldest son, I came to the point where I just had to get free from this. I didn't want to hand it to him. I didn't want to hand it on to my children. And so I remember I had this amazing encounter with God, and in the encounter he took me through a journey, and the journey actually caused me to get to an ending point for me, where I actually, for the first time, got free from something I didn't think I'd ever get free from. It's the next day. I'm up in Vermont, and I was actually a pastor in Vermont at the time, and I'm up there, and there was a store in Massachusetts about 30 minutes away from our church in Vermont, and I'm actually driving down past that store to go to a mall to buy a couple things for our baby. So I'm driving down there, I just got this real sense from God I needed to stop and go into this store. And this store was my safe store. It wasn't anything that you would never notice much about it, but it had magazines that were inappropriate in there, but it also had normal stuff, so I could kind of get away with it if I ever got caught, right? So I'm driving by it, and God just really said, "Hey, you need to stop." And to make a long story short, I fought him on it because I was free. I actually was, for the first time that I can truly say, for the first time in 15 years, I was really free. And he said, "I need you to stop." And to make a long story short, we argued, and I go into the store. He wants me to pick up a magazine, and I know he's leading me to do this, and I'm holding this magazine as if it was something that was going to catch me on fire, but the inner voice within me is, God's just calling me to do this. And he says, "I want you to open this magazine." And I was actually pleading, "No, I don't want to do it." And he says, "Open it and look." And I opened it and I looked, and for the first time in 15 years, I saw a woman, not an object. And God said to me, "I love that woman. I've always loved that woman." And at that amazing moment for me, my beliefs changed. My beliefs about who a woman was, and basically what changed was my chainmail. The system of which I was protecting Lynn and myself and others around me, that system that was guarding who I was, my core, suddenly changed. And when that chainmail changed and my thought process changed, everything about how I did life changed. I want to walk you through that journey a little bit. Not that journey of my struggle, but actually walk you through what the faulty beliefs are in our lives and our chainmail. In fact, I'm going to ask you a question. What on earth is worth dying for? As we open our manuals and say, okay, of all the things we do as guys, what's worth dying for? Let me ask you a question about our chainmail. What is the importance of the beliefs in the development of a man's life? What's important about it? What are the things that we believe that are important? This is your belief system. This is the things that you've come to believe to be true. They aren't necessarily all true, because depending on what are the filters that have kind of created these beliefs, you're going to sit here and you're going to say, I believe that this is true for me, even though it might not be, and it's therefore protecting me. The reason I ask you what's worth dying for is if I have a bad link in here, and somebody goes to stab me, if you stab me now and it's a good link, I'll get bruised, but I won't get stabbed. But if you stab me and it's a bad link, I could die. What beliefs do you have that are worth dying for? Let's walk through that to understand where they are. A couple things on a man's beliefs. A man or his chainmail will define how he handles changes within his forest. Everything about my chainmail will define how I handle what goes on around me. Everything. So that when I see the forest changing and altering, my belief system makes a difference. Okay, so if I have a certain belief system about how to approach economics in a time of inflation, then it's going to alter how I behave as the forest changes the inflation. You understand how it works. So my belief system around me will help me handle and navigate through the forest. It'll do something else. Look at B. It will determine how much he can develop his potential. And underline that word develop, because this will decide how free I am to function within it. Now, if you remember the armor is fitted. It's sort of like this form that's sort of built around you, but it's not tight on you. What makes it tight is this chainmail. This chainmail is now following the contour of your being. This is going to allow you, with greater safety, to develop within. The problem is, right, this, if it's faulty, will kill you. It'll put you in a position where you will die over it. And that's so often what I was struggling with. My sole struggle with pornography was a faulty belief system. That somehow or another, women were to be used for my pleasure as opposed to cared for, protected, right? I didn't see them as human beings. It was something very, very sad that kind of developed in my belief system. Look at this. A man's beliefs not only take us to this area, it takes us to a place C that influences the way he treats himself and others in the journey through his forest. You know, this belief system will impact how you and I engage with people. What we'll do with this, it'll make all the difference onto how we respond, because our belief system is what causes us to say, this is how I'm going to interact with you. Now, how does this protect me? Well, see, beliefs are something we learn over a period of time that through experiences, we've learned certain behaviors to avoid, right? That's what this does. It teaches you, you learn. You know, you don't put your hand on a hot stove. You don't reach into a fire and grab the marshmallow that falls off your stick, believe you can get it out before it burns you. Your belief system sort of tells you that. But if your belief system is faulty, it's going to kill us. So this is huge. This is all around us. Now, I will tell you, like armor, remember I mentioned we can get rid of armor over a period of time? This also can be absorbed into your very core, because remember now, the armor protects the outer being. This protects us closest to who we are, but there's still us underneath here that we're trying to protect. All right? So when we get to the core, we'll deal with it. Let's consider a couple of things if we could. What is it about a man that he needs to do in regards to his chainmail? Here's what we need to do regarding it. A knight must know and acknowledge his beliefs and take responsibility for his choices regarding those beliefs. If you're going to be a knight, you're going to need to know what you believe. Remember those 15 principles we gave you, week 2? Those principles are a beginning point, a launching pad, if you would, of truth. If they're implied, they are truth. So if they're put into your life, they're going to help guide you. They're going to help us understand how to do life, right? We need to start with all the time as a guy, what are the things that I truly, truly believe? How they're going to impact me? Because knowing what I believe is the key to being a knight. And without it, I'm going to be in trouble. B, a knight accepts that the forest outcomes created by his belief choices. I need to know that not only that am I responsible for all of my choices. That's what this is about. My beliefs will cause me to be responsible. So, guys, we won't say it's somebody else's fault, right? Because this is the system by which I operate off of. And then we'll go to one more step, and that is when something doesn't go the way I planned, the chainmail will cause me to say, you know what? I am going to have to make a choice in light of what goes on around me. It just doesn't overwhelm me, because this is very deeply connected to us and how we think, all right? This is our chainmail. Now, in order to understand this, when a man takes responsibility for his beliefs, he will do this. A, see his cup as half full, viewing life optimistically. When I see my cup of life. You remember, you heard that expression, right? You have a glass of water and it's half full. Is it half full or is it half empty? It has a lot to do with whether or not you view life positively. Now, everything we're talking about, it's not about a spandex male. Spandex male also has chainmail. Spandex male also has certain things inside of him that are around him that he believes, but they're not necessarily true. They're very faulty. So when you go spandex, you leave yourself very, very vulnerable. When a guy believes things positively about himself, when he gets to the place where he goes, you know what? I believe that this is the kind of man I can be. This is my potential, no matter what's happened to him, right? No matter what's happened around him, that he has hope and a future kind of thing. When we get there, we actually start to see life from a hopeful point of view, right? There are a couple of things I want to walk you through that I think will help you understand how it goes as a man. Not only will you see optimistically, but as a result of that, we're going to tend to live longer. Underline the word longer. I mean, literally, you're going to live longer. If you have an optimistic outlook, studies will show that you actually will live 7 years longer than the average human being, compared to the one who would have a negative outlook. It drains you. It just kind of all the time you're thinking what worst case scenario and all that kind of stuff. When you have a positive set of beliefs that are running into your life and you believe that you're kind of surrounded in this and that you're safe within these beliefs, in other words, they're allowing you to move forward, you're going to suddenly feel like, you know what, I can deal with life in a positive manner, and as a result of that, we start to live longer. A lot of guys, man, you're just wearing yourself out from the inside out because you don't trust the beliefs around you that you're going to be okay and in certain circumstances. So the force hits you with something. Your best friend dies of cancer early. Man, all of a sudden you're going, what's going on? I thought we lived forever as guys, and we certainly aren't going to think about that until we get older, and now all of a sudden he's gone. And if your chainmail's messed up, you're in trouble. But if it's positive, if it's true, if you believe it, what happens is you get this amazing opportunity to say, you know what? I can deal with life. And when you get a positive outlook, you tend to live longer. Third thing you tend to do is this. We will approach relationships with hope and passion. You know what's so cool? Is I have the opportunity with my sons, with my wife, with the guys that I'm accountable to, with my best friends, with my employees, with the people that I live next to. I have a way to give the opportunity of sharing the positive outlook I have on the world around me. You know why? Because I have a belief system that's intact. I have chainmail that is now protecting who I am as a guy, and it allows me the freedom to look at those around me as somebody that I can encourage and call up. I give hope to a world without hope. One of the lines I've always loved from Lord of the Rings is where Aragorn's being called up to be the king of his people, and he says to him, I will give all hope to man, and I will leave none for myself. And it isn't saying that I'm not going to keep anything that makes me encouraged. He basically says, I'm going to so pour out because I'm confident of what we're about to do, that I, without reserve, fight for those around me. That is knightly. That is where you get to the point where you're bringing and pouring out hope. There's another one we have to look at. Consider this. If we're going to live longer, we're going to approach life with hope and passion. We're also going to set goals and actively work towards achieving them. And if you've been listening to us the last couple of weeks, we're always saying set goals. We're always saying there's something you need to do, and you go, okay, yeah, I've heard it, set goals. You know what? This is about figuring out where you're going as a guy. We're not just doing life, because if you do life, life does you. You begin to live life in such a way, and that's what gives you the confidence. That armor that we had, that kind of gives you the ability and early nature of relationships. This is what gives you these belief systems. If the filters have been right and given you truth, and this armor's intact and the links are good, you're going to have this ability to walk through life in such a way that you get to do life. You get to live life. You get to live it at a full level. Look at this one, E. We tend to work more to develop ourselves. This is what's so cool. I have tremendous freedom inside of here. This is very flexible. It's heavy. This right here, without the hood, weighs over 65 pounds. But the reality is that this allows me a lot more flexibility. I can move my arms, my body, my core. Everything just kind of moves because of this, the way it is. You and I are going to have a tendency to just have greater freedom to move about, to develop who we are. So when you're safe in your beliefs, it's really cool to deal with your core. Now, to remind you what the core is what's inside here. It's you. It's me. We'll talk about all it's made up of in the next weeks or two. But right now, if you understand, this is designed to protect it so that the belief structure around it allows you freedom to develop and grow. Let me show you another one. F, it attracts more social support. Do you know what? When you're confident, people want to be around you. Whenever my kids have had a car accident, I think every one of them have had a car accident within the first 2 years of driving. I shouldn't, actually, you're in the insurance business, I apologize for what we've done to that whole world. You know what's interesting is every time the guys have an accident, they call me immediately because they somehow know that I'm going to know what to do about it. It's been interesting as I've watched the guys grow and we've kind of prepared them better and all that kind of stuff. They actually know what to do with each one of their experiences because they're unsure at that moment. When they believe I'm going to yell and lose it and go crazy and say, you're not as important as the metal around you or the plastic in some cars, the reality is that what we say to them is, man, you are everything, man. You're the stuff. You're okay? First question, you okay? Second question, is the other person okay? And then from there, let's figure out what to do about it. You instill confidence when you're confident what's inside. And you're going to do that when you feel confident of your core. And you're going to feel confident of your core because you're confident of your beliefs. See how this works? And it just is kind of this cool, flexible thing. Now, do I want the accident to come? No. Am I looking forward to it? No. But I have the armor and I have the chainmail in place so I can handle the moments that you have to handle because those belief structures are positive. Let's go to the next one. G. When a man takes responsibilities for his belief, he inspires others through his giving. We become givers, not takers. Now, let's go back to my pornography problem. I had a faulty system of belief that women take care of men. They're all about us. So to use a woman actually becomes a logical sequence. I was never taught to use women. It just became that which became part of my experience. When I get here, when I get to this particular place in my life, in my chainmail, where I've believed that wrongly, everything gets messed up. But when I get that on properly, I become a knight with my chainmail instead of just a guy. What happens is I tend to inspire others by my attitude towards women. I tend to suddenly be a giver, not a taker. Everything about me used to be a taker, right? I don't do that anymore. What changed? Oh, my belief changed. Look at one more. He achieves more of his life's purpose by leading himself and others more intentionally. I start to live intentionally. When's the last time that you did life in such a way that you felt such confidence? Now, I know some of us have screwed up really bad. Some of us have had things go wrong in our life really bad, and we feel like we've lost all that confidence we had when we were kids. What about, do you remember that moment when you sort of felt like you knew what to do, what the steps were, and where to move, and how to move forward? When you get this, it's because your belief system is intact and you're safe. This is a chainmail of a knight, not the chainmail of a spandex male, not the chainmail of a boy. This is the chainmail of a man that is living the way he's designed to live. All right? Let's consider a couple things that will happen. When a man knows what his beliefs is, he understands his dreams and goals as he develops a life map to make them a reality. When you and I get to a place as a man where we know what our goals are, we start to say, okay, I can now put together the steps. I can put together the movement that'll help me become the man I was designed to be. We start to map out. That's what goals are. I'm going to do this, this, and this to make this thing happen. There are times when our beliefs have been standing in the way of that. So if we can't see reality, we can't get to reality. And a great example of that is the movie Matrix. Matrix was one of those movies. The first time I ever saw it, it was like a wow experience. I had that experience when I saw Star Wars when I was real young. Same experience with Matrix. Matrix is this movie that it's sci-fi and it's kind of an action-packed thing. And I remember seeing it with my two sons. We got done seeing it. We walked outside. We said, let's go back and see it again. We went back in and saw it a second time. And because it was just one of those movies that just hit you with, wow, there's so much there, so many layers. There's a moment in the movie where Neo, who is going to be the hero of the movie, is being confronted with whether or not he will take one of two pills, the blue pill or the red pill. The blue pill will send him back to life as normal and he'll live with his old belief systems. The red pill will open up his eyes and he'll see all kinds of things. And once he takes the red pill, he'll never go back to life as he's known it. And he's sitting there trying to decide, and you know what he's doing? He's doing a chainmail decision. Do I want to live differently? And when he takes the red pill and leaves the blue pill away, and he gets involved in that, he suddenly finds himself in a whole new set of circumstances because his beliefs have changed and how he does life, how he understands changes. This becomes really exciting for us as a guy. Watch what happens when we do this. Not only will you begin to dream, you have goals, you begin to make some things a reality, you're going to energize his life map by constantly backing his decisions with the proper actions. What we're going to do is we're going to get so excited about what I do, I'm going to just find that every day is full of potential and possibility. I'm safe, right? I'm secure, so I can do this. So we energize our life map by constantly updating it, working on it. Look at C. He will maintain his life map, which sustains him by his support of both his direction and essence during attacks by the force. You're going to get attacked, right? Now, let's say that, for example, I decided that, Lynn and I got talking, I just need to get into shape. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So I decided to put a life map together on that. So I'm going to get a trainer. I apologize to the trainer. I won't mention his name because look at this. But we're going to take action at my age. I need to do some things. And those actions are going to involve how many days a week I'm going to be at a certain event and at the gym and how many days a week I'm going to be with the trainer. And it starts to put that in plan, right? What I'm going to eat. I'm going to start to read labels, which is no fun at all because it's more fun to just eat and not sweat it. I'm doing all that stuff. All of my life map moving me forward. But then you hit life. I'm at a lifestyle where I'm eating out 2 of the 3 meals a day. I'm at a place where I'm traveling and I'm not always home. And so how do you keep up your life map when the force throws things at you? Well, a good chainmail system allows you the freedom to say, I can do this. I can figure this out even though what the life throws at me curves. So if something tragic happens in my family, like when we find out one of my kids has cancer or one of my kids has a head trauma or one of my kids goes through a tough relationship or whatever else happened, my map, which is going in one direction, is able to be flexed around as the force throws life at us, right? Give you another one. We're going to recognize the successes of his plans are often contingent upon the details. Details are something that we're going to start to not be afraid of. I'm not a detail guy. I tend to be a big picture guy. I tend to be more of a creative guy. But my chainmail actually provides me a belief system that allows me to be safe enough that I'm not afraid of the details. So often when in one of my businesses, when we hit an economic problem and we find ourselves going, I don't know how to solve this, to be honest with you, I don't either. I mean, I'm okay on systems and I'm pretty good with certain areas. But there are guys that are much better at this than I am. There are people that know what they're doing. So what I do is I call on them to help me put together some details. But when I get those details, I start to do life differently as a result. There's so much freedom that we have here that allows us to say, you know what, I can live my life in details, even though it's not the way I'm wired, and some of you are wired that way, in such a way that I can say, okay, I'm confident of where I'm moving. I'm confident of what I'm making. I'm confident of where I'm going. Why? Because the beliefs are intact. All right? Chainmail. That's how it works. All right, check this out. E. Relies on his ideas and life map in order to find direction in life. I'm going to rely on my ideas and this map that I'm creating in order to find direction in life. Now, I'll be honest with you. Part of my life map is my relationship with God and what He's going to show me and my understanding of Him. And so part of my chainmail is a belief system that God is a loving God and able to engage with me and care for me. And it will help me create this system that I'll say, I know which steps to take. I start to live life where I'm responsible. Nobody else is responsible for me. I'm responsible for me. And I start to make choices with confidence. Chainmail protects you so you can begin to take responsibility and make choices. Remember, reject passivity, accept responsibility, lead courageously, live for God's reward. What happens is we begin to live this way as a man in such a way that we can become confident in how we're living and why we do it. Let's look at the next one. F, this man is not passive, so he initiates behavior that remains consistent with his ideas. I love the fact that we're not going to be passive anymore as guys. I actually think that, to be really honest with you, my whole view of women caused me, even though I was aggressive in pornography, to be passive about caring about them. Passive about making them feel valued. Passive about all that they were made to be. My belief system was messing me up, and so I lived far more passively than actively in engaging and caring for the heart of women. It changes. when I begin to say I'm responsible and I don't have to be passive about these things, I can figure out what the steps to take no matter what's thrown at me and how to care. It changes just about everything in which we do when passivity goes away. Let me give you this example. I was in a convenience store, and there was this girl that was what you'd have to determine very hot girl. She had learned, I think, probably was wounded somewhere in her life because she was very, very good with her sexuality. She learned to control people with her sexuality, and sometimes when you're wounded, it's easier to control those who do the wounding, and so you sort of play this game, and she clearly was in this ability to control the situation. There were two lines in this convenience store. One of them was with her, and one of them was with somebody else who did not have the same sexuality that she did. There were 6 guys in the line over here, and there was, like, I think one old lady over here. And all the guys are engaged, and she's engaged with everyone. As I'm walking up, I have to decide what I'm going to do about this encounter. And we all have to decide, how do I view her? Is she somebody I used, like my old belief system, or is she, according to my new belief system, somebody of tremendous worth and value, right? So I had this split-second decision whether I'm going to do what all the other guys are doing, and that is mentally undress her, or am I going to value her, right? As I get up to the counter, and each guy's done her thing, she's flirted with each one, and she flirts with me. Me, of all people. Look at me, I'm like Jabba the Hutt. As she flirts with me, and as she flirts with me, my question to her is, how you doing? She goes, well, fine, thank you. And she leans forward, and I said, I don't mean that. How are you doing? She got really uncomfortable. And she backed off from the counter a little bit. She says, don't ask. And she looked down, and I said, but I'm asking, how are you doing? Way past all the image, way past all the stuff, because I have learned in my belief system to value her, not her body parts, right? And she said to me, please, tears now welling in her eyes, please don't ask. And I backed away, and I said, I won't ask. But the next time I come in, if you're here, I will ask you again, because how you're doing is really important to me. I left, and as I was leaving, I turned, you know how you leave a store and you can kind of look back in, and she is staring at me as I'm walking off with the next customer waiting, trying to figure out what had just happened there. Why didn't her game work, and why was I playing off a new set of rules? I didn't used to play off of those rules. I used to play off an old belief system that would have used her like everybody else. Guys, your chainmail is extremely important about how you do life with others. Let me give you another one. When a man knows his beliefs, he empowers his ideas to serve others. I'm going to be empowered to make a difference in another person's life. When we get this, it just frees you up. It just allows you to live on such a level that you start to be an empowerer. No more a user, no more sucking of life from people. We start to see a human being and go, you are somebody that I can share the positive things that are going on in my world. I can share what I'm going through and value you and lift you up. It gets pretty exciting when we move into this world of chainmail, confident belief systems, and all that go with it. Let's consider one more. It will change our ideas when he desires a different future. When you and I get to a point where we say, you know what, where I'm living right now, the things I've screwed up and everything else, I desire to live differently than I've been living. You know, it was really cool. I'm 27 years old when I got free from pornography. And when I got free from pornography, I got to this amazing place where all of a sudden it changed how I viewed women, right? It will take me a while, because I had a lot of years of history. But as I'm changing, it's interesting. I desired a different future with women. I desired a different future with Lynn, my wife. I desired a different future with anybody I interacted with. Certainly I would desire a different future with any human being of the opposite sex. So instead of me being the guy who would end up being unfaithful, and the guy that would end up using, and the guy that would end up doing all the stuff that we get to be known so much for as guys, I could be a whole different guy. I could build a different future than I started. You know what's interesting? When I got free from this whole area, there were a couple of people I had dated that I had to apologize to. Just had to say, oh, sorry. Then I talked about it, and we kind of made a contact and just said, hey, you know, I'm sorry I was a user. Not anymore, but I just want to tell you, I know I hurt you. You know what's really weird about that? Whether you need to do that or not, that's you got to be wise and cautious on what steps you take. But what's really cool was I was actually changing my past because my future gave me a hope for a whole other way of doing it. Chainmail frees you up to do these kind of things, all right? Let's consider a couple more things. When our chainmail is strong, even under pressure, the following things are going to happen. Lies are going to be easier to spot. I want to tell you about a guy named Stephen. Stephen is a follower of Jesus. Wasn't one of the disciples, but he's a follower of Jesus. He actually is known as the first martyr. So if you want to know how his story goes, his chainmail, by the way, is intact, and he still dies. Because the chainmail, the belief system around him, enabled him to deal with what he had to deal with. He's being accused of some things that are not true in his life. In fact, he's being accused of some things about Jesus that are not true about Jesus. And he can see these lies. When you have beliefs, when you have truth, right? When you know you have truth, you can spot lies really easy, right? No con. I can start to figure this out. Stephen saw the lies of what was being thrown at him. So in this encounter, he looks at the guys that are lying to him, and he goes, I'm going to tell you the truth, guys. You want to hear the truth? I'm going to give you the truth. And he starts to proclaim the truth to these guys in ways that they go, wow. So much so they start to become uncomfortable. Not only become uncomfortable, they start screaming at him. These are leaders. Let me tell you what else had happened. Letter B, when our chainmail is strong, even under pressure, our past provides us with learning experiences which are helpful for our present. What this guy does, and I really love this, he talks about the fact that, you know what, let me tell you the history that got us here, guys. Let me tell you everything that's built to this moment. Because while you guys are losing it, I understand that my truth is consistent with history. My truth is truth. Truth is always truth. It doesn't change. So he has this boldness to talk about the present from a past perspective. When I struggled with pornography, and I would not talk about my past building on my present, it was sort of messing it up. I had to sort of build new truth, right? New history. But with Stephen, he was able to say, guys, this is consistent. Truth is truth is truth is truth. And all of a sudden, you get this sense of this guy is stronger chainmail than these guys that are arguing with him. Suddenly, these guys that are threatening him, they're sort of in command. They're sort of in a position. He goes, guys, I don't know what you're thinking, but I'll tell you what I'm thinking. Because he has his chainmail. So when they start to grab rocks, they start to stone him to death. Because they can't stand his words of truth in their lying, false chainmail world. A bunch of spandex males throwing rocks at a knight. Listen to what happens with Stephen. Write this down. Our future will be revealed by the credibility of our beliefs. You'll become fearless, even up to death, when this is intact. What happens with Stephen, it actually says his face shone as they tried to kill him. And what's happening is his beliefs are so confident that you can't mess with his future. You understand? It isn't going according to plan. His life map might not be working out at that particular point. But he's okay because his beliefs are okay. Stephen rocks the world. You know why? Because we're sitting here talking about him today, 2,000 years after he was stoned to death by a bunch of spandex males. You know what? When you and I are the knight we're designed to be, long after we're gone, people will be talking about us and the God we represent. Pretty profound. Let me give you one more area. The knight who properly uses his chainmail are going to learn to do this. A, firmly know what his beliefs are and why they are his beliefs. One of the cool things is you're going to get to know why you believe what you believe, what they are, and how to hold on to them. B, knows the difference between what he is taught and what he chooses to believe. He's going to know the difference between what he's been taught, my history, right, and what is now I choose to believe. So some of you have been taught some really bad stuff by your parents, by your family, by teachers, by friends, and you now get to choose what you believe. And when you're a knight, when you're a man, when you are all your design, not spandex, you'll begin to make choices about real truth. How do you know what truth is? Well, it's a search. But a knight searches for truth. He starts with principles, 15 of them, right? Starts to begin to think differently about those. C, he looks to refine his beliefs to guarantee that they rest on the truth and are adaptive. I'm not afraid. Right? I'm not afraid of finding out where truth is or isn't. I can always be looking. If I have truth, I'm not afraid. And if I want truth, I'm not afraid. There's allowing me to constantly refine what I know and understand, making a difference in my chainmail. Next one. Take responsibility for the choices he has made, regardless of whether or not his beliefs were valid or not at the time. There's an attitude that you're going to have, guys. You got to have. A knight has this. The buck stops here. I did a lot of damage to a lot of individuals because I believed something wrong about a woman's heart. The buck stops with me. My beliefs, the choices that I made, are on me. Right? Responsibility, choice. It's all what the chainmail allows you to have freedom to do. E. The knight who properly uses chainmail immediately adjusts his ideas when they prove faulty. You're going to learn to say, you know what, if I got this wrong, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix it because I want truth. What makes me safe. How did you know they're faulty? Well, you realize you either hurt somebody or you got hurt, right? F, realize that his beliefs give him confidence in the middle of a battle. Guys, we don't have many men of courage anymore. A man of courage has good chainmail. He trusts his beliefs. Matter of fact, a real man of courage, that chainmail actually becomes part of his core. It just filters right inside of him. I mean, it pours right inside of him. And because everything that he gets is that which gives him confidence for the battle. One of the things we're going to talk about in year 2 of this series of Knights of the 21st Century is knowing what battles to fight. The year 2 is called A Warrior, and it's all about knowing where to fight, when not to fight, and courage in the middle of those. G, shares his beliefs with those he leads. You're going to be a mentor. Knights are mentors. Knights always have squires that come alongside, and they help them to grow. So you're going to share and have courage to share those beliefs. I transfer my beliefs all the time, not only to my sons, but to guys in my life, and obviously right now I'm transferring them to you. We are involved in that role when we become a knight. H, listens to and respects other people's right to their beliefs. I love the idea that I can be confident in my chainmail, that if you have different chainmail than me, I'm okay with that. I don't have to convince you that I'm right. I just have to know that I'm right. If I had to convince you that I'm right, then I will actually, after a while, start to judge you and push on you and drive you nuts. I will just simply portray my beliefs, both in how I live and what I say, and hope that if yours are faulty, you'll learn. And if your beliefs are beliefs I need to adapt to, then I will learn. There's something exciting about our relationship with one another, and it changes everything. I, finally, we have character and integrity that is solid and consistent. You know what that's called? It's called a knight. It's called a knight. You know what a knight is? Somebody has chainmail on, and that chainmail has caused him to have such confidence in life because his beliefs are what they need to be. It's what's worth dying for? Well, you know what? When your beliefs are intact, they're worth it. Go ahead, take your best shot. I trust in them. So you won't blame anybody else. It will not be your dad's fault. It will not be your boss's fault. It will not be society's fault. It won't be your mom's fault. It won't be. It's on you. And your beliefs will allow you to adapt, to adjust to what those decisions are and what they're not. You know what's interesting? I view women very differently today. When I was 27 years old and I got free from pornography, God took me on a journey, and I've doubled that since then and those years. And I've begun to understand that the heart of a woman is worthy to be protected. The heart of every woman. Matter of fact, I view myself like a Secret Service agent protecting the president. My job is to not be noticed in the center, but to realize the great worth of the one who stands behind me. When I start to live as a Secret Service agent in the heart of Lynn, I've also learned that when I protect the heart of every woman, I'm protecting the heart of the woman I've been given. So I start to view women on every level different. If you had told me 20-some years ago that I would think of women this way, I would have told you, not in your wildest dreams. But as a knight with good chainmail, based on principles and life maps and everything else, I have to tell you that now where I see a woman is very, very different. I wonder, you struggling with how you view those around you and using instead of giving and valuing, and instead we end up hurting? It's probably because your chainmail's faulty. Are you willing to die for it? Think it through. We'll see you next week.